Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or just hello. Okay, lie on your back, bend your knees, and just allow your feet to press into the floor. So just spend a moment just focusing on your feet. Can you just imagine that you've got a little tripod underneath your feet? So sometimes people think, what's a tripod? Can't quite imagine it. Or you could imagine that you've got £3 coins underneath each foot. You've got one underneath the ball of your big foot, the big toe, ball of your big foot, ball of your big toe, the ball of your little toe, and the heel. Okay, so right about there on your heel. So there, there, and there, those 3 points. Not on your toes, and not on your arches. Okay, so if you imagine that you've got that underneath each foot. And sometimes it kind of helps if you think, all those pound coins have been in the freezer, they're really cold, and you can't help but notice them because they're freezing. So when you feel you've got those 3 points, and it might take a little bit of time to practice that, or throughout the session as well, you just have to keep reminding yourself. So if you press into those 3 points, can you feel what happens? If you really press down, as if you're going down into the earth, through the floor, into the soil, and you start to notice that your pelvis, oh my goodness, it rocks backwards and forwards when you press down, and then you let go. So without your jaw going, so there's no effort in your face, no effort in your jaw or in your eyes, and you start to feel that your pelvis tilts and then it goes back the other way. So when you press down, you flatten the back, and when you release that pressure, it arches. It's just that rocking and rolling, which is quite nice. Getting some movement in your lumbar spine, and then your head will start to feel that it's moving as well. So when you push your feet down, the lumbar spine drops to the floor and your chin lifts. So you start looking behind you. And then when you let go, the chin drops back down, and you create this arch in your lower back. So the movement is all the way up your spine into your neck, which makes your head move. Nice and simple, but then awareness in your feet without your toes going grabbing the ground, without your jaw clenching, without your shoulders going up towards your ears, without your teeth clenching, and without your fingers going grabbing the ground. So less effort, just notice where you are creating effort and let that go. So then you can notice where halfway is. We're talking about neutral pelvis, like where is it? Can you find halfway between the flat back and the arch back? So if you put one of your fingers on your belly button, on your navel, you'll notice when you push your feet down to the floor, that navel sinks down as if it's tilting towards you, and when you let go of that, it kind of goes that way towards your pubic bone. So what you're looking for is halfway between the two. Can you go halfway? Can you find halfway? So if you have water in it, it would be level. And if your back is naturally flat, if you don't have much of a curve in your lower back, to find that halfway, you might feel like you're overarching too much. It'll feel a bit odd. And if you're overarched, if you've got higher arch in your lower back, you will feel that when you go into halfway, it will feel like, can't quite get there, or it might feel a bit odd, feel like you're flattening your back too much. So you can feel what's going on underneath your lumbar spine, and you'll find there is a little bit of a gap for your fingertips just to find their way through. Because if you're too high up here, if your navel is facing towards your pubic bone, you can get all your hand underneath here, your hand, your arm, and everything. And if it's too flat, you won't be able to get anything underneath there. So it's a bit like Goldilocks finding just the right porridge. You can put your hand underneath and just find how it feels, just notice it. When you flatten the back and when you arch the back. And when you find that halfway, see if you can maintain that. So I'm going to keep my hand here, I can test myself, which is a bit scary. So the back of the neck is long, so the chin's towards my throat. I'm going to pick up one foot, put it down, change feet. So that seems to be staying quite stable in the belly button, staying level. And nothing's changing with the pressure in my lower back. I'm not adding to it or taking away from it. My chin isn't lifting, so I'm not compensating in my neck. So I'm going to keep the next leg up there and pick up the other one. And then come back down, and then come back down. Picking up the leg, picking up the other one, coming back down, coming back down. And it's just a nice little way to feel what's going on. So you can begin to notice if you're clenching your jaw, if you're holding your breath. Just allow the breath to flow for a moment. You can feel if you're coming off that hand that's underneath my lower back. I can feel if I'm coming off that. But it seems to be quite stable, not increasing the pressure. So I'm going to stay up there this time. And my hands are going to go behind my head. Link my fingers together. Elbows coming out to the side. So I can see my feet. I can imagine that I'm in bed. I want to look towards the horizon. I lift my head and just look. And then come back down. I lift my head, look to the horizon, see if my shoulder blades can come off the floor. And then come back down. And again, lifting and coming back down. I'm going to lift and release one hand. And then come back down. And then I'm going to lift and release the other hand. And come back down. And then lift and release. And come back down. And lift and release. And come back down. See if I can do both hands. Lift and release. And come back down. And lift and release. And come back down. And lift and release. And stay here. And move the arms. Chin stays down. Just breathing normally for a moment. And then hugging the knees in, bringing the head down. And one at a time, bringing the feet down. Then I'm going to come up into a bridge. So I'm going to take anything away underneath my head. And feel hip bones. So if you put your fingertips on your hip bones, you can feel right and left hip bone. Are they feeling level? And just a little bit of a wiggle to find that level point, and then flatten your back and start to roll yourself up, and then come back down. So think of your spine like a chain. It comes up one link at a time. So right at the bottom where the tailbone is, picking up one link, going all the way through your tailbone, your sacrum, your lower back, and then coming back down. Whereas if they were numbered, painting by numbers, little canvas going on in your lower back, painting by numbers. Do you ever have that when you were a child? Do you have a book painted by numbers? So where would you begin? And where were the numbers? How the sequence looked like in your mind's eye? Coming up and coming back down. Can you keep your hips level as you do that? And can you keep the back of the neck long so your chin stays towards your throat? So your eyes are gazing towards the knees or just on the ceiling, a spot on the ceiling, so they don't end up drifting behind you. I'm going to stay up there for a moment. Can you stay lifted for a moment with the hip bones feeling level? And the feet, think about that tripod, those £3 coins underneath your feet. Can you notice those for a moment? Does that feel a little bit more secure when you think about those? And then come back down. And then last time coming back up, staying lifted. And then see if you can bring up the arms as well. Can they just lift with you? Just come up and see if you can then scissor the arms up and down, forwards and backwards. That's nice. And then see if one arm can stay back, and then bring the other arm back, and then come back down through your spine. And then bring the arms down. And then roll over onto one side, bring the knees together and lift and lower your top foot. So your head supported on your hand. You can notice your belly here. Can you breathe into that part of your body so you're not lifting and lowering your shoulders. And then keep the foot down, lift the knee, bring the knee down, lift the foot, so you're alternating up and down. belly, saying hello. A little bit with the hands. And then let the leg come out and lift it and lower it. But keeping that leg long so it's not coming up towards your pelvis, towards your rib cage. Your pelvis stays away from your ribs, is what I'm trying to say. And then bend your knee and come back over onto your back. So let one knee drop out, come back in, the other knee drops out, come back in. So you're rolling on the pelvis from right side to left side. Nice. And then come and lie on your other side. So I'm going to turn myself over here. Lie here for a moment and just lift and lower that top foot. So noticing your belly breathing here, or into your ribs here. So you're not just using your shoulders to breathe. Shoulder muscles do help you breathe, but they're not primary muscles. Let's focus on their diaphragm. So your shoulder muscles don't become primary muscles to breathe, because then you start to get tight shoulders. And then lift the knee, come back down, lift the foot, come back down. So you're in and out, in and out. And then come and lie on your back again. Oh, lovely. And as you breathe out, slide one leg away. As you breathe in, come back in, and then change legs. So if your hands are on your hips, you feel your hip bones feeling equal and your navel feeling level. So notice if it's going back towards you or if it's going towards your pubic bone. So if it's level, you've got that tiny little gap underneath your lower back. So your pelvis stays quite steady and stable and quiet. So if you ask your pelvis, do you realise that your legs are moving? You wouldn't have any idea, wouldn't have a clue. You would think it's being quite still and stable. I have no idea that your legs are moving. So on the next one, the knee's going to drop out to the side. You're going to slide the leg away and then come back in. Knee drops out, other side, knee drops out, slide the leg away and come back in. So you slide the leg away, you come back in on the heel. Knee drops out, slide the leg away, you come back in on the heel. That's lovely. Again, the pelvis is staying quite steady. It's not overly arching or flattening. We're just allowing that freedom of movement around the hip joint. Letting it flow. So you're not holding on. Just notice if you are tensing anywhere in your pelvic floor or your jaw. Last one on the other side. And then come back and push. Come back to where you started, pushing your feet down and letting it go. There are those 3 points of attachment underneath your feet. Last one. And then let it go and roll over onto your side. And then when you feel ready, push yourself up. Well done. Thank you for joining me. Take care.